Hi, so in this video I'm going to show you how to muck around with GUIs in Java. Now I'm going to be sticking to the Swing API rather than the AWT one or the JavaFX one, just because I'm just going to be doing forms and things like that. So if I was doing something like animations or something with moving objects on the screen, then I would probably go for JavaFX instead. AWT is the older version of Swing, so it's a little bit outdated and it looks a bit pants compared to some of the Swing stuff. So we'll see how we get on. Now I'm going to make a new project. Okay, I'm going to call it something like Cats GUI, and you'll see why shortly. Alright, Cats GUI, let's go. Alright, let's get rid of some comments. So at this stage we haven't got any interfaces or anything like that, so I'm going to make one by right clicking on this bit here. Now I'm going to do new, and then I'm going to do JFrame form. Now the rookie mistake here is if you click JPanel form. JPanel form and JFrame form are a little bit different. I'm going with a JFrame form because I want the window around the outside. I want the buttons. I want to be able to move it around, so I'm going for JFrame form, and I'm going to go for name. Oh, no, let's go for login. Alright, I'm going to click finish. So at this stage we get a big grey square, which is not particularly appealing. We might want to make it look a little bit nicer, so we're going to put a few things on it. So I've got this control palette over here, should I say, this palette over here with different Swing controls in it. If I minimise that, you can see that there are some AWT ones as well, and the AWT ones, I think they look a little bit outdated because they are. So I'm just going to see what I mean. You've got labels up here, labels down there. These ones look a little bit nicer, so I'm going to stick to the Swing ones. Alright, so I'm going to do label, double clicking it. Alright, username. Now I can make this a little bit bigger if I want to position it over here. Down here you've got a few options, so this is the properties for it. If you can't see these, by the way, just window and then reset windows and it'll ping these right back. And that will sort that bit out for you. You have got a few things over here that you can put in as well. But that's that. Now the properties window gets the same exact thing if I right click on it. This thing is exactly the same as that. So it's just showing us the properties of it. And I can do things like play around with the font size. So I'm going bold, I want it to be bigger, and I'm going to want it to be, let's go with something fancy. Let's go with, oh, not italic. No, not that, because that is really hard to read. Yes, Calibri. It's the first time Calibri's been called fancy ever. Alright, and then I'm going to do a text field next to it. So I'm not going to do a text area. Text area you tend to do for like descriptions of things. Tends to be a bit big in multiple lines. You can see this one's just got one. So I'm just going to put username, and then I'm going to do the same sort of thing here. So I'm going to do password. Alright, and again another text field. Notice that it's trying to do some nice things by helping me line stuff up. So if I just click and drag, it'll help me line some stuff up for me. And I can just click on this one and go, yes, okay, I do want this one to be bold, and I want it to be Calibri, because that was the same as the last one. That will do. Oh, I think I made it a bit bigger as well in the last one, so 12. Well, let's go with 12. Alright. Next thing I'm going to want is a little button, so I'm going to put a button down there. I'm not going to put toggle button, I went for this one. And we'll play around with some of the other components as we go, so don't panic if we're not using everything just now. And I'm just going to put that in the middle. Now, at this stage, that's okay. It's not particularly interesting, but we'll make it a bit more interesting as we go. I'm going to show you how to get this open on the screen. Alright, so I'm going to come back to this one. Notice that one was called login, so I'm going to go same exact uppercase and lowercase. So login, oh, hang on, if I could spell that'd be great. Login, I'm just going to put L because I'm lazy, equals new login. Alright, and then I've got L dot. Now, this is going to be a fun one. If I do set visible, alright, and true, what will happen is that if I click run, it should pop up. Now I've got two screens, so it just popped up onto my other screen. It might be that I want to set the size of this to be a particular size. So let's go for the easy way of doing this. I can do L.set size, and then I've got to give it two numbers. So if I did something like, let's go 600 and then 500, just so you can see what size that has come back as. Click run again, and it's made it that size. If I change that and I do 300, let's just kind of exit that and then rerun it again. It's come back as this size. So we've got the height and the width of it. Alright, so we've got the height and the width of it. As you can see, this one is going to be the height and this one is going to be the width of it. So let me just put that in there so we don't get confused. So it's width and then height, just like that. Alright, and we can change those numbers to whatever we want. Now, let's say we wanted to get the size of the screen open. Alright, so let's say we wanted the size of the screen and we wanted to fill the entire screen. I'm going to show you how to do that now. Right, so there's a few things that we need to import and put in there, so just bear with me for a second. So what we're going to start with is something called a toolkit. If I could spell again, that would be lovely. I'm going to just put tk equals dot get default toolkit is what I want. Alright, so this is going to be using the toolkit from AWT. So I'm using the AWT selection of tools, I'm using the toolkit from it. Alright, so I'm creating a new toolkit. I'm going to do int, and then I'm going to do, let's go with x size. Alright, so that's what I'm going to do. X size equals, now we're going to do tk dot get screen size dot get width is what I want. So we're going to do width first, alright? So that's that. Now, it's going to cause us a few issues because it's going to say something like incompatible types because I'm going from a double to an int. So what we need to do is just cast this as an int. So I'm going to say this is an int. That basically is saying I know it's a double. This is going to get a double, and then when I store it, I'm storing it as an int. Just make sure you just store it as an int for me. Alright, so that's what that part's doing. And then I'm going to do the same. Alright, I'm going to cheat here slightly because I'm just going to copy and paste and then change the last part because we're not doing get width anymore, we're going to do get height. Alright, okay. Now, what we've got is the height and width of it. If I change this part, alright, and then run this again, what I might do as well is just print this out so you can see what is happening here. So let me just print out the X and the Y. So you can see what resolution it's getting me and what that is doing. So down the bottom we should have something printed out, alright, and then if I bring this over, this monster, look at the size of this thing. So that will cover the whole screen, alright. It's a bit smaller than my whole screen, but that's okay. That's good enough for now. Alright, so that's how you get the entire screen size if you want the whole screen size, and it's just printed those bits out down the bottom. So I'm going to make mine full screen every time, and we're going to just continue playing around with it. Alright. So what we're going to play around with now is putting a picture in. So for this I need a label, which is just here. And then in here, I'm going to find the one that says icon, alright, and then I'm going to click the dots. Now we need to do something in terms of putting our picture in a sensible place, alright, so let's just figure out where we need to put it. So the place that you're going to want to put pictures in is inside your project folder. Alright, so if I find my project folder, this is my NetBeans project. I've only got a few projects in here because I've got a few elsewhere. So I'm going to click on Cats GUI because that is what we are making. Alright, now we're going to put our pictures inside this folder somewhere. Alright, so I've pre-downloaded a picture of a cat because we are doing one about cats. Now it's worth to mention in this particular part that there are only a couple of file types that this works with in terms of pictures. It's really fussy. So you want to be making sure that your picture files are PNGs, JPEGs or GIFs. It works with GIFs, it works really nicely with GIFs. So if you want to have like a nice GIF loading screen, that will work fine. Alright, now I'm going to put my picture in a particular place, but I'm going to show you what happens just in case you put it in the wrong place. Alright, so just inside, we've just clicked inside the Cats GUI. If I copy and paste my picture there, my picture of a cat, and I'll show you my picture of a cat. Here he is, my big lazy picture of a cat that I found on the internet. Notice that nothing's happened here. If we put it here, we may have issues with it. So we're going to move it inside the SRC folder. Now the second we do that, can you see I've got a default package just there? So inside here, even though it's here, is put it inside this default package bit on my project. Oh, It's going to give us issues until we do that. So you can see my cat picture just there. And it's going to, that will work fine if you're okay with it saying default package. I'm going to move it one step further. So I'm going to move it inside this bit just here. Now, I could, at this stage, show you how to create subfolders in NetBeans and show you how to kind of make it so that you can import things from different subfolders, but I'm not going to do that because this is just an intro to GUIs, alright? So we're just going to play around with GUIs and try and get this to show a cat picture. So, I've put my cat picture in. He's just there. Might be a sheep, we don't know, I got this from the internet. So I'm going to click on my label. I'm going to go back to the icon bit, so the little dots next to it, just dot, 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 alright. And then I'm going to click on this bit, it says image within project. And then I've got little cat PNG just there. Now, if this bit doesn't work, let me just make this bigger for a second. My picture has showed up in here. If you find that you just did that, you clicked on your picture and nothing showed up in here, double check the file type. You might think that you've downloaded a JPEG and you've got something else and it might not work, or a PNG or something like that. So double check the file type. When I click OK, my cat will just pop in there like that. Alright, now I can just get rid of this little label part. Nobody wants that in there. So here's my little thing at the moment. If I just click run, there it is. Particularly impressive, I know. Alright, so what we're going to do is I'm going to try and put this stuff in front of my picture. Now you notice that at the moment, if I click and drag it, and it's going to go, whoa, I don't like doing that at all. It's going to cause me all manner of different problems, all right? We need to change the layout of the background. If I want to put stuff on top of other things, one of the layouts that works, if I right-click it, just on the background, just don't click on the picture, right-click on the grey bit of your background somewhere. You want to click on Set Layout and Null Layout. Now there's lots of different layouts in here depending on what we're doing. Things like grid bag layout if you want to do like a set of boxes, like cells. You can do things like flow layout, that's quite a nice layout. Card layout's a very nice useful one. I'm going to do null layout. Alright, and then what I can do is just click and drag those things on top so I can put those. If I want to put those right on top of him, I totally can. If I run that now, I've got it on top of his face. Now just a bit to note here, just a quick faff. If I got rid of this set size part, I'm just going to comment that out for a second. Alright, if I did that null layout, what you find when you run it is that your project appears ridiculously small. Now I'm trying to just copy and paste it over to you for a second because it's too small for me to even drag it. It appears like this. Alright, I had to make it bigger because it actually appeared like this on my other screen. If when you're running it, yours appears like that and you have to make it bigger every time to actually see the stuff, it's because you skipped this set size part. If you don't put set size in there and you're using a null layout, it won't appear with any sort of size to it. Alright, so you need to just put that in there just to make that work. Alright, next bit. Let's get the username and password. Now we're gonna change this text on this button to just say OK. And I'm going to get rid of the text that's inside these ones. So I'm just going to click edit and get rid of them. So we've got username and we've got password. Alright, so what we're going to do, I'm going to click on OK, I'm going to double click on it. So we're saying when this button is clicked, if I double click on it, you notice that it's generated me this method. So I've got JButton1 action performed. Now, just a slight note here, we've got this Navigator panel that we've not really talked about a bit yet. If I go back to my design, if I click on something, it will tell me what the name of it is. So the actual name of this button is JButton1. If I click on this one here, that's called JLabel2. That one's called JLabel1. It's not actually called username, that's just the text that it's showing. I can change these things by right-clicking on it and doing change variable name. So I could do things like OK button. What that means is when I then look at my text, it will look a little bit more easy to understand rather than having lots of J labels and things like that. So if I just change the variable name, I'm going to do, oh, if I could spell that'd be lovely, username field, and then let me do the next one. I'm going to do change variable name, password field. All right, notice that it's changing it down the left. Over on this side. I don't really need to change the labels. I can if I wanted to, but I'm not going to be doing anything in terms of code with those or updating things, particularly yet. Alright, so I'm going to go back to the OK button. Double click. and we're back into the code. Now here is where we need to get a little bit more comfortable, because some of us will look at this part and get really scared because there's tons of stuff in here already and we didn't code any of this, we didn't hard code any of this. So let's have a little look at what we need to worry about. Let's look at the whole thing. So we've got, it's in this Cats GUI package, that's fine. We've got, it's called class login and it extends a J-frame, that's okay, we know it's a J-frame. And then we've got this constructor, so we've got public login. We know what a constructor is. The constructor is, if you're going to make an object, this is the bit it does first. All right, so we've got, it does init components. Now, the init components bit is the scary part because it's actually hidden underneath this little plus button. And if I get plus, what happens is it does a lot of the legwork for us. So it's doing things like setting up the J labels. It's doing things like creating the actual font style of things. You notice that I picked Calibrian 12 earlier and said it was bold. So that's what it's doing. It's doing all of this setup part that we chose earlier and it's just hiding it from us. We don't need to worry about that particularly. The biggest thing here is that we can't edit it. So if I'm hammering my keyboard, nothing's going to happen. We can change bits of this, but it's a little bit tricky. NetBeans doesn't like us changing that. So we have to do it in a little bit of an improvised fashion later on. So we're going to leave that under there. The other bit that we've got is this main method down here. So we're saying, okay, so when we make the main, when this is called, we're going to say, it's got public void run. Don't worry about this event queue part because that's just creating a new runnable, which means create the interface and then run it. Alright, so that's what this is doing and then setting it to be visible. So we don't need to worry about that main method. We don't need to worry about the init components part. We might want to put things after it's initialized the components later on, so we could add some stuff in here, that's okay. We're going to be putting some stuff into this OK button. Alright, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to do if. So I'm going to do if username. Oh, if I could spell, that'd be great. And then I'm going to do dot get text. All right, so that's getting the text from that field. So when I go to the username, it's saying get the text that's in here. That's what that method's doing. And if I'm going to do dot equals Julie, yes. So if the username equals Julie, we're going to say do something. All right, else. Where we can make a choice as to what else to do now. So I'm going to go back to the design of this. Now let's do a few things. So let's do another label. So let's put a label under here. All right, and we're going to muck around with this label. So I'm going to do edit text. I'm going to do username not found. Oh, can't spell. Found. Exclamation mark. Why not? Alright, so that's going to be username not found. Now at the moment, if I run this, it's going to show automatically. If I just show you what I just meant, as in goes, well, hey, username not found, and it's not particularly big, I need to make that bigger. Alright, let's do that again. Username not found, there we go. So I'm going to hide this and then show this a little bit later on if it's not found. So let's come back to here. So we're going to do init components. We need to rename one because I think it's JLabel4. Let's go back, design, JLabel4, there we go. I'm going to do change variable name to error message. No spaces, absolutely no spaces allowed in here. So let's go back. So we're going to do error message dot set visible, and then we're going to do that to false. All right, so that's going to be false. That means it doesn't show when I run it. If I just show you what I mean, when I click run, it has magically disappeared. If I nick this, notice I did that after the init components bit. If I did it before, you might find that it says it doesn't know what it is. So if I just move that and I put it there, it might give you an error sometimes. So just be really careful with that. I'm going to leave it underneath for now. All right, init components, lovely. Done. All right, else. All right, okay. So we're going to say, if the username is not equal to Julie, then show that error message. Okay, so let's just play with that for a second. So username, at the moment, if I just click that button, it will say username not found. Now, if I type my name in and click it again, I haven't told it to do anything, so that's still going to be there. We haven't done much more of my coding just yet. And also, my button has turned into dots, so I'm just going to make that slightly wider so it says OK next time. Okay, let's do the next screen. So let's go new. I'm going to do JFrame form again. I'm going to do main menu. And on this one, I'm going to put a GIF just to show you what that does. Now I need to actually find a GIF. So if I go onto the internet and I just type in loading screen, and then I can put GIF at the end of it. You can do file type if you want to do file type. Make sure they're definitely GIFs, and then you just find one that you think is particularly cool. So you might go, what's this one? Oh, Space Dude. No, we don't. We liked it until it said stuff on it, and you might go, oh, that's a bit pixelated. Let's just find a decent one. What's this one? This one doesn't even move. This one sucks. Alright, let's go for this one. Let's go for this. It's a bit boring, but that'll do. Alright, I'm going to do save image as, and then... Alright, and I'm going to save that into my downloads, where my other cat files were. So, loading screen. Alright. Label. Icon. Oh, actually, before we do this, I need to move my file that I just downloaded, loading screen, into here. Otherwise it's going to go funny. It should pop up just there. Alright, back to the label. Icon, dots, loading screen. Now again, you see, notice the mine's gone black, so I know that has worked because it's in there. It won't necessarily play in this part, but don't panic about that. It will play a bit later, and we can just make that bigger. Just point a note here about cropping images. Notice that mine doesn't necessarily shrink and make it smaller. In my experience of pictures, NetBeans is really funny with them. I mean, I've found it quicker to take a picture, put it into Photoshop and edit it, and make it smaller or whatever, and then put it back in. Or even like take the background out, then I have to fuss about with it by setting the size or mucking around with the properties and the code in here. So if you do want it to be a particular, like you want it to be smaller or whatnot, try cropping it outside of NetBeans, because NetBeans is not particularly good in terms of the tools for this. Alright, so, alright. Let's go back to, so that's where we're going to end up. And this is main menu, it's got a loading thing on it, doesn't matter for now. Let's go back to the login.java. So I'm saying, if the username equals Julie, when I push the button, I want it to open this main menu. So we've done this code before. It's a bit like that login screen one before. Dot set visible. Alright, and then we just want a true in there. Now we can set the size of it if you do want to set the size of it. So I can do dot set size, and then I can give it 2 numbers. I can do like 600. 500. You can do that as well, that's absolutely fine. So if I just click that again, this is the stage where we're at. Okay, so if I just click that, it goes, okay, username not found. And if I go Julie, and I'll go yes, and then over on my other screen, it has opened this thing. All right? Yeah, okay, we can fuss around with the size later. But why is this one still open? We need to get rid of this one. This one's a little bit funny at the moment, because I could totally keep hammering this OK button and just generating loads of them. That's a really annoying thing. I don't want to do that, so I'm just going to close all of those. Now, what we want this to do is we want it to open the new one and then actually get rid of this login screen. We don't want this to stay open. All right, so we're going to do this dot dispose. Alright, so what that line does, just this one here, this dot disposes, it says get rid of this particular current running object. So if I've got this one and I type in Julie, and I go, okay, alright, notice that disappeared then. I didn't click on anything, it disappeared, and we've got this GIF one open. Alright, so we can just do this dot dispose and it will get rid. At this stage we need to think about what we're doing, because we can't go back. We might want a back button. If we want a back button, then what you can do is just chuck a button on there, and if you don't mind having a brand new one, you can just do this code again, and that's absolutely fine. Then that will open a new one of our cat screen. We're going to do a little bit more fussing around just because some of you will ask me questions about like drop down boxes and stuff like that. So if I click, let's just go OK, so I can make a back button on here. So I'm just going to go OK. I'm just totally going to cheat and nick this code, all of it. I'm just going to nick all of it, and I'm just going to paste it in there. Okay, that said, did you want to do the import? And I said, yes, please. So that will then go back to my other screen. If I just do edit text, all right. Last little bit, I want to do this dot dispose. All right, so we got Julie. Okay, this one. Back. This one, I know, it's like an infinite loop. All right, let's go to my little login one. I'm going to fuss around with some different things like some combo boxes and stuff like that. Now let's have a little bit of a look for combo boxes. We've got combo boxes, we've got lists. Lists are where you want to put one thing after the other and select one. A bit like this. This is, you've got like a list box down here. This, you could almost argue this is a table because you've got different columns and things like that. And we'll play around with tables a little bit later. We're going to have a little look at a drop down box. So let's go for combo box just there. Now at the stage this has got item 1, all right. If we right click it, we can do customize code. And in here what we've got is an array of things. So we've got this line here, all right, and we're going to edit it. So we're going to go custom property, and you can change what's in here. So we've got item 1, item 2, item 3, item 4. We can do something like cake. Why are we doing food with cats? Let's go. Oh. All right. So then I can click OK on that, and then when I run this, it's going to give me those different options just in here. You can play around with this in terms of setting that particular drop-down box to be certain values, and I'll show you how to do that now. So in terms of how to do that, what we're going to do is we're going to nick this entire line of code, press Ctrl-C, and then what I'm going to do is just get rid of the stuff inside the curly brackets. So I'm just going to say it's a new string and it's empty. All right. So if I then click OK, at this stage, if I run this, it's going to have a big fat nothing in here. All right. Now the idea is we're going to populate this with some stuff, with some code, as opposed to type it in with this customized part. If we're typing into this customized part, it's fixed. We can't change it later, and that might be annoying to us. So we might want to make this a little bit more dynamic. In the source code, I'm going to do this in the constructor, so I'm just going to put it in here. You might not want to put it in here, you might put it somewhere else. Now this was the entire line from that particular part of the code, all right? Now look at this part, new string, and then we've got a string of things here. Let's just split this up a little bit. So if I called this string cats equals, all right, and then put a semicolon at the end. That's how you would normally do an array of some stuff. Now this is an array of cats. What I can then do is just come in here, get rid of everything in here and just put cats. Alright, so again that quick change was, I've now got an array of things. I can change that array later if I wanted to, or I can change it by populating it from somewhere else. And then I can do this set model method on this combo box and just say use this array. So if I run it again, my cheeky little cat list in here. All right. So you can, that's how you do it. So you've got your array and you're populating the model of this combo box with an array that you've given it. And again, you can put that in a different method and update it if you wanted to. That's not a problem at all. Now let's look at some other things we can play around with. Alright, so the next job I'm going to do is play around with this one here. So this one's a JText field at the moment, and I'm going to change it to be a JPassword field. You can see it's a JText field just down here. It means that if I type something into it, So if I just click run and I type in hi, you can see what I am typing in. And we might not want that, so we're going to change that. I'm going to get rid of this one, and I'm just going to put a password field in. Let's just put it, I'm going to put this on the edge, and I'm going to show you why. Sometimes you get funny issues with layering with some of these things. Now what's happened here is that the password field has been put in behind the cat picture. So I'm just going to click on it and just click move up, and I'm just going to keep doing that before it appears right at the front. Alright, so now if I click run and then put that in, you can see I just type whatever I like in here and you can't see it. There is a little bit of a difference at the back end of this. So let's go to the source button. So what we're going to do is put a little bit more of a condition in here. So when we did the text field, we did this .getText bit just here. Now we have to do it slightly differently when we do the password field. The password field is a slightly different one. So let's just do some, to make it a bit easier to read. So let's do string username. Oh, if I could spell, that'd be good. And then I'm just going to do copying and pasting that in. I'll put that in there and then get rid of that bit for a second. Alright. And then I'm going to do string. Alright, now this is where it gets a little bit funny, because you can't just do password or password field .get text. So I've left it as jpassword field. Let's just dot. Now you don't have a .get text in here, so you can't really oh, hang on, jpassword field 1. There we go. I don't have a get text. You see it's got a line through it. Now a line through it means that that method is an outdated method. It means that there's better ones to use now, so you shouldn't really be using those ones. What we're going to do is we're going to do get password. Now notice that it comes back as an array of chars. Alright, so if I did it like that, that is going to cause us an issue. So what we've got at this stage is that we have got a slight issue in that we have got a char array on one side and we're trying to store it in a string. Now arguably you would say that you'd rather keep this as a char array because it's more secure as a char array, because when it's a char array you can delete it as soon as you're done with it. If we convert it to a string, it means that we're relying on the Java garbage disposal to deal with that string, and you know, it's a password, so we're going to treat that as quite secure information that we don't really want to kind of rely on other things to deal with. We're going to kind of do this in an easy fashion, so we're going to convert it to be a string from a char array and then play around with it from there, just because it's slightly easier. If you want to do it with a char array and leave it as a char array, that's actually the better option. Alright, so I'm just going to convert this to a string now by doing new string, and then I'm going to put brackets around it. Oh, brackets, not a 0, thank you very much. So that's now converted that to be a string and stored it as password. We're going to come back to my if statement. So now what we've got is if username, oh hello, username, so if username dot equals, and I'm just going to put Julie, and then I'm going to do an and. Alright, if I was doing an or, that means one or the other has to be correct. We know that both of these things have to be correct, so it's an and. So if password dot equals, and then I'm going to put pass, and then we're just going to do a quick test of that. Alright, so if I just run mine again, what we've got here is my username and then my password. Again, you won't be able to see my password. I promise I've typed in PASS, and then I click OK, and then I get my funky looking GIF open there. Alright, so that is how we play around with password fields. If I go back, that's how we play around with password fields rather than text fields if you're going to do something like a password. You have got some other things in here in terms of your controls that you can play around with. Things like sliders. Sliders can be quite fun, and you can do things like the slider name, so jslider1 dot get value of, and then it can get the value of whatever like position they've slid that particular part to. You've got things like spinners. You can just get the value of this. You can also do things like set minimums and maximums on these, which aren't too stressful. So there's a lot of things in here that you can muck around with. The biggest thing in terms of your progress is making sure that you can move between screens. So you can set up something like a screen where you can type in your username and password. You can set up another screen that it goes to, and then you can have buttons which go off to other screens. just remember that you can do the this.dispose part to get rid of the screens, just to make sure you've not got loads of things open in memory when you're clicking around in them. All right, cool. That's it for this video.